What's up, party people? It's KeysDAN with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live in a living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you can have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Are you not entertained? Let me entertain you. Today on the program, speaking of entertainment, oh my goodness, you are in for a treat. A man who's been around for a long, long time, eating, breathing, and sleeping this music business. Count Viglione, Joe Viglione. Count, a.k.a. Joe Viglione. Oh, I'm so excited to talk to him. I'm so excited to have you hear what he's got to say. And he's out there in Boston, in the Boston area, doing his thing, music business, playing music, promoting music, and he's got some stories to tell. Yeah, so stick around. This week's shows, I will be at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas, the video dance party karaoke jam. Yes, I said karaoke. You're the stars of the show. It's a little concert starring each and every one of you. My usual Friday night gig at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas, 8 p.m. until 12:30 in the AM. They got a full bar. The kitchen's open. Good food. Delicious food. They got 10 diamond-style pool tables. So if you want to try your hand at playing pool, hey, I encourage you to check out the Rab. They got a pool tournament on Friday nights. You can try your hand at playing pool and possibly make some money while you're doing it, while you're waiting to sing on stage right next to yours truly. Come on out to the Rab. It's always a good time. Good food, good fun, good people, good times. Oh, good. And then on Saturday, I think I have either a private function. I haven't looked at my calendar in a sec. I either have a private function or I have a day off. Either way, good times. I'm ready for it. I'm here. All right, that's enough intro. Let's get into it with Joe Viglione. Oh, I got him on Skype. So if you're listening to the audio version, I encourage you to check out the video version on my YouTube page, youtube.com/user/KeysDAN. Skyping Joe Viglione now.
Oh, place is a mess. I got records everywhere.
That's not a bad problem to have. Records everywhere. Oh my goodness, I miss records. I had thousands of them at one time, and no more records. I used to go to a club, show up with maybe a crate of Tower records or a Peaches record box, and get to the club, and my boys and girls out there, you dancers, that is all you're going to hear is what is in that crate. You're not going to get anything downloaded off the internet because it doesn't exist yet because it's the 80s and we don't know about the internet yet. I guess we know about public boards and board. I know when I was living in Broward County in Fort Lauderdale, we had the Broward County board. It was like a message board. The early versions of the internet where we could play word games back and forth. I don't know how familiar you are. I'm excited to know you. There is so much that says Joe Viglione, and I don't know if I pronounced that properly. I wanted to put the Italian emphasis on it, or maybe it's Joe Viglione. But there's so much about you. There's so many hits on the internet about you, but I really don't know who you are. Your card says music consultant, publicist, but I know there's got to be so much more to you. Pronounce your name correctly so I don't foul it up for your family.
It's Viglione with the G silent.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you just fine. Now, if you're on your phone, make sure you're all centered up. For the people that are listening to the audio version of this, I encourage you to check out the video version. So you see Joe Viglione right there next to me, looking good. And now you say you have
very good, man.
Now you say you have records hanging out behind you. I could see one record amongst the plants that is. It's got a bunch of faces on it. Is it Haley's? Wait, it's not Haley's Comet. Is it The Hollies Greatest Hits. Is that what it is? Is that what I'm looking at?
Very good, man.
Tom Rush.
I'm interviewing Tom Rush.
Well, good.
The third.
Well, tell me about that. Hey, if you have a headset, it'll make it sound a whole lot better. But if not, this will do. I'll raise the levels best I can.
Yeah, I don't have a headset. I was totally. I've never done Skype.
Well, good. Yeah, you're doing great. It's pretty user friendly. I think during the COVID thing, Zoom ate Skype's lunch. People were doing Zoom meetings, but Skype was first, and it fits so nice in my broadcast software. Although I only see half your face, and it's kind of mysterious. There he is.
First, I want to thank you for all the airplay you've given our artists.
Well, okay.
They are so happy with you.
Well, that's a thing. Oh, and let me tell you, Twitter. Thank you, Elon Musk. You've messed up Twitter. Now it won't tweet the songs that I'm playing on RadioWhat.com. So your artists are going to be less happy with me. My Sam broadcaster had a program that would tweet the artist when I would play their songs. This way, the artist would have something to retweet, giving Elon Musk and his Twitter followers more content. But no, now he wants you to pay for that. I don't make a lot of money on that radio. How are you going to pay for some? He wants me to pay him to give him content, and you're welcome.
I think someone's going to buy it sooner than later.
Well, no, they're not going to buy it for that $44 billion. He's going to definitely lose money on that because he kind of backed himself into the corner when he said he was told Jack Dempsey that, or is it Jack Dempsey? No, that's the boxer, Jack Dorsey. When he told Jack Dorsey that he was going to buy it, he was compelled to buy it because that was like a verbal contract, and he had to spend all that money, and he's trying to recoup all that money. It's not a money-making scheme. That social media has been free to use, and the public is used to that, and it's ruined. But social media aside, let me say you're welcome to all your fine artists. You're doing a great job promoting these people. Once you get to a certain level, do you sing? Do you make music? Because I see music that's attributed to you from the 80s, and I've been listening. The 80s music sounds a lot like the 60s music. Is that you? Uh-oh, hold on a second. Hold on, I lost your audio for a second. Let me get that back. Boom, go.
I got signed to a French label in 1978. And they put 4 of my albums out. But I became A&R man. I met the Rolling Stones producer, Jimmy Miller. Within 3 weeks, I was his manager.
Wait, you're Jimmy Miller's manager?
Yeah, the guy who did Gimme Shelter and Brown Sugar and all those songs. So for years, I managed Jimmy.
Okay, and
he
he's
brought
the
me
one
to a Keith Richards session in 1988. Keith introduces me to Rob Fraboni, his other producer, and we've been best of friends for 35 years. So we got a new corporation we're forming. So all we do is work. All we do is make music, promote it. That's all we do.
Yeah, it seems like you're not only producing this music, but you're also promoting the music, and you take a lot of time doing this. Well, at least for the last few years, you've been doing a show. It was a visual radio. Is that you?
The visual radio I started in 95. We've had Jodie Foster, Ray Manzarek, Mark Farner, Chuck Negron, Three Dog Night, all the greats. We have so much fun with it. And it still continues today.
Yeah, it's nice to have a
things like
go ahead.
Elder Services, Mystic Valley Elder. We did a great show on Elder Services that helps the community. So it's not just the rock stars and the film stars and the directors. It's local bands. We have the local bands, and we want to give them an hour on the air.
Yeah, back in college, back in '86 when I was first started, I got out of high school and I wanted to figure out what I wanted to be when I grew up. So there was a college radio that was run out of Piper High School, 88.5 down there in South Florida, down in the Fort Lauderdale area. And I remember, well, radio can help the community. You might make $1 or $2. Nobody really gets rich doing radio. It's that handful of people that make millions. You could think about Rick Dees and Casey Kasem and Howard Stern, and maybe 5 or 10 people that really have made big money. The thing about radio is, yes, you can make kind of a living. You get that notoriety, but you also help people in the community. They buy airtime, to get their products and services, and you also get to interview the stars, the record, the people that are making the records. I'll get somebody like you. I'll be sitting, on my terrestrial radio, sitting in my chair, in front of my microphone, and somebody like you will come in with a record and say, "Hey, this is a new record from an artist that I'm kind of promoting. Would you like to play this?" I take a listen. I like it. I put it on the air. People listen, and then hopefully they buy the records, and it's all symbiotic. That's how this worked. At least back then, you have a bunch of records sitting around you. People don't sell records anymore. Will this business survive without record sales? How are the artists making money?
Well, everyone has to be creative with T-shirts and hats and live gigs, and the live gigs are difficult too. What's huge right now is tribute bands. Had we came out with our Lou Reed tribute in '78, because we were devotees, of Lou. We do the Lou Reed tribute like once a year, and it goes over very well. Even Lou's guitarist, Nelson Slater, joined us at one of the gigs. So Lou was just an amazing man, and I had a good relationship with him in his office. So he's one of my heroes. But to be able to communicate with Lou and interview him was just, to me, very important in my life.
Well, Laurie Anderson just found a bunch of papers from Lou Reed and just put it out as a book. Have you been able to pick up this book or read any of that?
No, I should. I didn't interview Laurie. I taped her in Massachusetts. She did a lecture. I interviewed Eric Anderson. And so Lou was like amazed I knew all his friends. And he really liked that. He goes, Eric Anderson did a record with him. Well, I interviewed Eric. These are greats. I mean, they're incredible people. And they have so much information that we want to document forever.
Oh, for my loyal listener, I want to let you know, the reason I brought up Laurie Anderson after he was talking about Lou Reed is Laurie Anderson was married to Lou Reed from, I'm looking 2008 to 2013. And after Lou Reed passed away back in 2013, well, when he died, that's when their marriage ended. So she was his widow, and she found those papers and decided to make a book out of them. I thought, I haven't been able to get a hold of that either. Not that I was looking all that hard. I'm sure it's easy to get a hold of it. But you say, man, Lou Reed. Now there's a guy that take a walk on the wild side and so much more.
After 50 days after he passed, they had at the Apollo Theater a memorial for him, and they invited me. So we had third row because my friend Jeff lived near New York, so he was one of the first in line. So we're in the third row. Yoko Ono's across from us; she's walking by, and there's William Dafoe sitting across from us. Paul Simon is singing, Patti Smith, but Blondie blew everyone away doing White Light, White Heat. And it's up there on the web. Someone taped it, so you can find it. It was December 13th, 2013, Lou's memorial. 3.5 hours. It was like Lou was there.
Yeah. That's the thing about musicians and artists and people that are creatives. They can make their mark in the world. Yes, you can be a scientist and cure cancer. Hopefully one day somebody cures cancer. All you smart people out there, keep on trying to cure cancer. But, the other side of the coin is people need to be entertained, need to unwind. After you've had a long week of work, you want to change all that hardship that has come down on your head. And what better way than to go out and catch a show? And, Lou Reed made those records and other artists, of course. And they live forever through their music. And us, people like you and me, talk about it, keep playing that music, make them live on and on. Appreciate all that music.
I went to the very first Rock and Roll Animal show, September 1st, 1973. And I eventually met Steve Hunter and Dick Wagner, the two guitarists who joined Alice Cooper later. And I've been writing a book on the whole tour because the tour was amazing, but that first show was the very best. And I guess London was the second best. But it was an amazing night. It was a Twilight series, the Sunset series out in Tanglewood. And they had a blue fluorescent light, and Lou did folk. He played some folk tunes in the middle of the set. And then they came up behind him for Heroin, and it was just totally amazing. I'll never forget that show. It was just such a great concert. But then they couldn't do as the full show that I saw because they had to make it more commercial, of course, as the tour went on. But they were experimenting, man. It was the very first show. And I was 19 years old. Just a totally amazing gig.
All right.
And you remember those things 50 years later.
Well, I wish I could remember those things. I was 4 years old. So, all right, you're a slightly older man. I was born in 69, in Miami, Florida. But yeah, I guess we could back up for the listener, find out how you became and where you came from and how you became who you are today. I guess, are you born and raised in Boston?
I've been in Boston my whole life. We grew up in Arlington on the Mystic Lake, and I liked mysticism, so we were on the Mystic Lake, and we started a rock band when I was around 17. So we started writing songs, and my Saltwater Summers got on the big radio station because they play a local artist every day. And then I put Saltwater Summers out. I got the record deal. And all of a sudden, we were building a Boston rock and roll scene. I mean, there was Jay Giles and Aerosmith, Jonathan Richman and the Modern Lovers, but there was no new wave scene till we came around. There were about 10 of us bands, and it blossomed into 3,500.
So the
local newspaper hired me to help do the band guide. We went from 10 bands in the paper to 3,500, Dan.
So you're not doing covers. You're doing original music then?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
I'm putting a song up every day, I don't know if you know this. Every day I put a song on Spotify from the old days, so I have 77 of them up as of today.
Okay, what I'm looking at is under your Count Viglione, the topic on YouTube. It seems like you've updated today, updated yesterday. There's new songs going out, and these are the songs. I know you have a Joe Viglione page, and that's mostly you promoting other people and doing interviews and stuff like that. But this Count Viglione is music that you made, you produced. Like I said, it sounds like the 60s, and you said you started way back then. Is this stuff from the 60s? Or I saw one Secret Things from 88, and that that sounds like the 60s. But it's made in the 80s. Yeah,
I started producing records in 1971.
Okay.
Then I met the Stones producers. So what's really interesting is I work with Fraboni, and Fraboni and Miller did Goat's Head Soup. Remember that album?
No, I do not. School me.
Rolling Stones, Goat's Head Soup, Angie, Heartbreaker.
Know the songs, didn't know the name of the album. So sorry. Tattoo You was the first Stones record that I got. I'm the only other act
in the world that has the same team that did Goat's Head Soup. Miller and Fraboni did one of my records. So it's like, wow, it's 200 years from now, Dan, I'll be appreciated. 200 years from now. Thank you for the...
Yes. Well, now, no, you are certainly appreciated. I'm sure the artists that you're helping to build up are appreciating you. But yes, that is what we were talking about earlier is the longevity. The creators can leave their mark and be appreciated forever and ever. Conceivably, we're still talking about Beethoven, my favorite of the past. We're still talking about Mozart and all these people that made music hundreds and hundreds of years ago. And all you wish, as a creator, as an artist, as a movie maker, a song maker, a poet, a book writer, is will it be appreciated 100 years from now? Will somebody care?
Well, here's a funny thing, Dan. 50 years ago, it was all segmented. So you had your hard rock, you had your punk rockers, your new wave, right? Segregated. And people didn't bother with the other genres. 50 years later, all the other genres were all one music scene, and people are working together that would never have worked together 50 years ago. So one of the songs I put up today, Sail Away, that's got like a mini super group of Boston area known musicians. It's got John Macy, and John and I were in the same genre. And Sal Baglio kind of was in the same genre. We performed shows with him, but he's playing with John Butcher, who was totally Hendrixy and very commercial, and he got on Polygram. So, but everyone's all the same genre now.
Yeah, I got Ed McMahon and Lady D. I'm sure that's not the Ed McMahon I'm thinking of. It's written.
No, he's a famous Ed McMahon of Boston on Kiss 108, the #1 station. But he's actually the guy who does the Dunkin' Donuts radio when you go into Dunkin' Donuts. So he and Lady D are actually probably get a bigger audience now, even though they were on the #1 station.
That's so funny. I did a local rent-a-center radio. It's amazing when you get a voice and you get on this radio. The gigs, you never know where they're going to come from. Sometimes you got to hustle to make it anywhere in this business. Now, you said earlier people aren't even selling records anymore. They got to sell T-shirts. And I got my Radio What T-shirt on, and that's how you're making money. These days with live shows, and you say it's hard to get a live show. I know I'm bouncing back and forth, but I want to know.
Well, the tributes are amazing because a friend of mine went and saw. Now, I'm not a big fan of the Eagles, but she had a girls' night out. They left the husbands and went to see the Eagles, $45 a head, right? And she said we had a blast. So they're living through these tribute bands. Now, there's I interviewed the Australian Pink Floyd band.
Okay.
About 4 months ago. They gave me 10 tickets. They're $86 a ticket. They're grossing about $100,000 a night. And they sound like Pink Floyd. And they're so good, Pink Floyd jammed with them and had them play parties. Is that amazing?
Very amazing.
There's two huge Floyd bands, but there must be 20 of them out there. But two of the big ones that generate this incredible money. They have the light show, and they sound like Floyd, and they're devoted.
My best buddy in high school was really into Pink Floyd. I was a Queen fan. Now, I want to apologize to my Eagles fans out there. Shots fired. But, hey, you don't have to like everything. Take it easy.
I saw Queen from like the fifth row when they did the music hall in Boston.
Oh, heartbreak.
Back in the day.
Now, that was one I didn't get to. There's been quite a few concerts I've been to. Bruce Springsteen, Heart, was it Greg Kinn? Some of the, great Duran Duran. So many concerts that I've been through in my life, and I never got a chance to see Queen live. Of course, you've seen the videos of them at Wimbledon, and the fantastic movie that came out. Amazing. To be in fifth row. I walked out
on Springsteen in 73.
I saw him in 84 when he was doing a 3-hour show and then collapsing and then doing another 45 minutes. It was crazy.
Well, see, before he was famous, he played the East Coast a lot. And Mickey O'Halloran, who I worked for, but before I met Mickey, brought him into Cask and Flagon, Oliver's. I taped the second to last Velvet Underground show ever at Oliver's. It came out, and there was only Doug Yule in it, no original members, but the final, they did 2 more shows, and I taped the second to last one. It came out in Japan. Someone bootlegged it and put it out in Japan. But Boston's an amazing town because you get a lot of, Tull, when they first come over, Tull and whomever, they play Boston and then they go to New York, and then they go across the country. So we would get the shows first. We had an amazing scene, Dan. It's all different now. It was so much fun. And I was there.
Well, Boston's a big city. I know that comedians go through there and acts and things. So you've been in a big town. I was from Miami, so we had all the acts that wanted to go down there for vacation. When in the summer, in the wintertime, when it was too cold to be up north, they go down, get on the beach, sip a margarita, and then maybe, do a show at the local club. Oh, I see a kitty. My kitty's out there. I have a tabby, an orange tabby. What's your kitty's name? What's your kitty's name?
That's Susie.
Susie. Well, I have Mama Kitty out there. Oh, so sweet. Look at that face. That's beautiful. My loyal audio listeners aren't getting the full Viglione.
She's on my lap right now because I'm on the phone with you and she gets jealous.
Yes, mine too. Definitely. She'd be right up on me. I mean, she sleeps. Okay, I said a long time ago I would never have a cat in the house. My wife convinced me to have a cat in the house. Yes. Okay, as long as they're not in the bedroom. Guess where this kitty sleeps? Right between my legs, almost up my butt, and sleeps very comfortably and peacefully all night. I have to stay completely still. Cats. Love them. I'm a cat guy. All right? It happened.
Yeah. But we have amazing scene here, man, and we generate music and we're archivists. But the record albums, I rescue record albums that would be thrown away. So I have a deal with a store, and that's why I got 40,000 units I have and climbing. I'm giving them away now to Goodwill and Salvation Army. There's too many.
Well, let me back it up a little bit, Joe. You had a bootleg of one of the last Velvet Underground records, and you say that it got big in Japan. I'm sure the Velvet Underground did not make any money off of this bootleg record. What is the advantage?
Oh, no, I think Doug Yule did. I think Dougie did because it was a fan. I'd given a portion of the concert to a fan magazine. And the guy did me wrong because I should have negotiated. I'm in the record biz. Make it legitimate. It came out on Captain Tripp. They're a good label. But I'm sure they got permission from Doug Yule, but I was cut out of it, and I have the first generation tape. So it's a weaker tape that came out, and I got 3 songs they don't have. So eventually, it's historic, and we could work with Doug and put out a real volume of it, the real thing.
Well, back when I was a baby DJ down in South Florida, of course, I had my name and number in a lot of the different record stores. And whenever they had something choice, a bootleg, an import from Japan, a European, whatever, they would give me a call. Hey, we just got this in. Are you interested? Because they knew I was going to be playing a certain kind of club that wanted to hear a certain kind of music. Me, I thought that bootlegs meant, all right, somebody recorded this, put it out there. It's kind of like a mixtape. It means that the artist isn't going to get any money, but the one thing they are going to get is notoriety. They're going to get exposure at further places. Maybe somebody in Japan would never have heard them if it wasn't for you recording this particular album. And then maybe they can go to Japan and make some money out there. Am I wrong in that?
Well, what you want to do is pick up Clinton Halen's bootleg. It's about 20 years old. It's a book. And I just read it. I just read it last month. And it really tells the whole history. The first thing they bootlegged was Shakespeare. Did you know that?
I'm sure. And he probably wasn't the first.
Well, Shakespeare, he just wrote them for the plays. It was like one day at a time. It was like soap operas. He never took it seriously. They give the scripts to the actors, and the people in the audience were transcribing them. But then, he's like the most important British export, isn't he?
I suppose. Now, the conspiracy theory is that Shakespeare didn't write all his own plays. Uh-oh.
Right.
Uh-oh. Who wrote them? They say he wasn't smart enough to do it. Possibly. They say.
People talk.
Yeah.
I've been doing this 50 years, and you'll hear 10 different things about, who did what in the studio with me, and it's like, I'm here. I can tell you what happened.
Yeah, you've chewed the dirt. You've been there. You've been in the clubs in the Boston scene. Have you been any place else in the country? Did you make your way to California or Nashville or New York?
We go to California for business. We struck a Motown deal in 1986.
In Detroit.
I'll email you the booklet. I just wrote a 40-page booklet, and it's got the Motown contract in it. So we do something called the demo that got the deal. So we talked to Lou Reed about the demo. Now, Lou Reed was funny. He said, Joe, Andy Warhol got us the deal, but if there was a demo, I'm sure you'd have a copy. He knew how devoted I was. It was great. But we interview Mark Vaughn, our Grand Funk Railroad. I'm in my thinking mode tonight. I'm the thinker.
Well, Motown is out there in wait. Oh, now it's headquartered.
They were in Detroit, but Berry Gordy sold it to California.
Okay.
We moved to California. We dealt with the late Russ Reagan, and we had a British band, the Manish Boys, but we were also producing Buddy Guy. And I was lobbying for Buddy Guy, and Jimmy said, let's do the Manish Boys first. And so I showed him some respect. It was his contact that we got the deal with, but I was able to work with Alan Arrow, the great attorney for Patti LaBelle and many others. He's gone now. Russ Reagan's gone. But I lived through this history, man, and I signed the deal.
Well,
pretty cool.
Where can we find all this history? Is it all going to be put down in a book? Once you get to a certain age, people ask you, you have all this knowledge, this fountain of information. You've touched all this greatness, and you've been part of the greatness. The records that you've made, are you putting, you have them out? Is there an ability for people to buy them for $1 a piece and maybe throw some money your way?
Well, they actually go for good money because they're so old now. And I never thought, I thought, oh, they'll go for $2.99 or whatever. No, they're going for $30, $40. Some of $60. It depends on the record. And the rarer the record, the more money.
Now, it's
we
nice
did
that
a
the kids...
legitimate record called the Boston Bootleg 1.
Yeah.
And there were 500 copies, and it was local bands, but it wasn't a bootleg. It was all legit with contracts. It goes for a lot of money these days because there were only 500, and it's history. It's Boston history.
I miss all my records. Oh my goodness. I put them in a storage unit and I lost them. I had, 13 Queen albums. I was so appreciative in love with playing the records, feeling, opening you put the record on the turntable on your Technique there. And then you look at the album cover, the sleeve. It's got history. It's got information that you could read on the radio, that you can, you learn about what was the band thinking at this time. It's gone. That is all gone now.
Well, you can get them at yard sales, man, for like 50 cents each.
But where are you going to play them? I don't even have a record player anymore. Everything is digital too. My turntables are steel. They're Pioneer DDJs that control my computer. People expect to hear any song they want at any time. They expect me to be a human jukebox. Most of the time I push back when I'm at the club. If I feel like playing 80s, I'm going to play 80s. If I feel like playing 70s, if I feel like playing music that I just got from you, Joe, if the stuff that you just sent me, I'll put that out at the club and people will go, who is that? Oh, this is a new artist. You need to check them out. It's my job.
That's good to hear. I didn't know you play the stuff at the clubs too.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's not that is my job. When I was in Miami and I got the opportunity to play at some of the South Beach clubs or the clubs that were, in South Florida, I had the people would hand me albums during the day at the record, at the various radio stations that I was working at. I would take those records to the clubs and if they, bumped, if they were going to get people to dance or get people to feel a certain kind of way, I'd put them on the turntables at the club and people go, who is that? And most of the time us DJs would rip the labels off and maybe put a little code on there. CJ, B1, Joe V, JV. That's who that is. So they don't know what that record is, but and then we'd secretly, hey, I'll let you know who, make them feel special. Let them know that's Joe Viglione. Yeah, that's his record.
Very cool.
It is, man. It was fun being a DJ in the 80s. I think all the way through the 90s, I was really working, South Florida, South Beach, and even on the radio down there. It was just, that was a time. And now, hey, I'm in Arkansas. I made my way out here, and now I'm, playing at a couple of clubs, still 2 nights a week, doing my thing, and I have my online radio station, still helping people just like you, man, just helping people once you get to a certain level, you help the next generation. That's what you're doing. Who are the artists that you're helping out, that you're promoting these days?
Well, I just sent you the Complaints out of Rhode Island.
Okay.
Magnificent band. I've known them 23 years. I don't know if you know, but I wrote 5,000 reviews for allmusic.com in 9 years.
I did not know. That's prolific.
So I worked for allmusic.com, a metadata database. So I reviewed the Complaints albums. And there's another band.
Uh-oh. Hold on a second. Go ahead. The other band?
So they just brought me on board to work their music. Well, the American Beauties album is unbelievable.
You cut out for a second there.
I just sent you The Rain, one song.
Yeah, you cut out
the Complaints album is solid as always.
You cut out for a second.
Friends of mine, and they come up with great music, so it's an honor to get them out there.
You cut out for a second.
And they can do it themselves. You know, they've been around, so they're old enough to do it themselves, but they like having a team. And we build a team, and we do great things together.
Hey, you cut out for a second. You did the name of the band. I missed it.
Oh, the Complaints is from Rhode Island, Dean Petrella, and then American Beauties with Michael Gray. I just sent both of them to you today.
That's the one.
Great music, great friends of mine.
Fantastic.
Good people.
And how did you get a hold of them?
Well, like I said, I was writing for All Music, and the Complaints sent me this CD 23 years ago. So I met them. So 23 years later, we're friends. And Michael Gray was on my radio show about 8 years ago, and we're friends. And, they all have their own way of promoting, but then they work with me to get my formula. And we're all friendly, and we have fun, and it keeps you in touch with people, too.
That is fantastic.
So you don't lose track.
Yeah, no, and well, that's the nice thing about this this podcast thing that we're doing. You do a video version as well. We get to go long form. It used to be if an artist had a show in South Florida, in Miami, they would come into my studio, sit down in the chair in front of me. I'd get 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes of them way too early because I'm on the morning show, and they'd tell me about the show that was coming up that night. But I never had a real conversation. Yes, I was able to make some acquaintances and make some kind of a friendship, but it's hard to do in 15 minutes. When you have a full hour, you can actually chat with somebody and learn a little bit more about them. Dude, I had no idea that you were such a legend. Okay. I knew that you did a lot of things. I knew that you made music, promoted music, and, talked about music and played music, but I had no idea that you work so hard in this business we call show. I mean, tell the people.
Well, do you like the Jefferson Airplane?
Oh yeah, even Starship and yeah.
Okay, so Marty Ballin, I was going to start a new TV show. We did one in '79. In '95, I want to start a new one. So I called Marty up, and he goes, "I'll be in the bookstores in Harvard Square in your neck of the woods. Come find me." I'm like, I'm not going to go searching for Marty in the bookstores. I called his father up. Where is he? He goes, Howard Johnson, right? We videotape him in 1995. And then in 2008, I directed the first movie of Marty Ballin solo. So it's Marty Ballin live on the Esplanade. It's out worldwide on music video distributors. But we used the interview for the public access TV show. And it's amazing. From that 1995, when I tracked him down. Now, we couldn't do it at the House of Blues. Teo, and these people are all gone now. Teo passed and Marty Ballin passed. But Teo said you can't use House of Blues because they own the copyright of the building. But can I come to the interview? I said, sure, Teo. And he came across the street. We had a little audience in Marty's bedroom, and I interviewed him for 45 minutes. Then years later, when he had me do the DVD and I produced and directed it, we used the old video. We got on that video, him singing Somebody to Love, which he never did. It's like one few time he did, Grace Slick.
Grace Slick did that, yeah.
And we got that on the DVD. Her brother-in-law, Darby Slick, wrote it.
See, this is pieces of history. This is House of Blues was pretty dumb to be so tight with their brand, not knowing that, if their logo is in the background of this video, how many years later that logo is going to keep going and going and going.
Hello, we're in a Howard Johnson's bedroom.
Yes.
Instead of House of Blues.
So,
and it's 1995. Well, they had issues, but now they're great. They went into a bigger venue in Boston, and they let you videotape, and they're a lot looser now.
Good.
I got a great show from the House of Blues. They let you videotape. It's a whole different world. They had a TV show, and they didn't want to have the image out there.
Okay, when you mentioned TV show back in the late 70s, I mean, this is
1990, 95.
Okay,
1995.
95. But you said were you making TV shows even in the 70s?
79. Now, this is weird. That was my director. He was a college kid.
Who was the director?
So I had a record out, an EP, before I had the album deal. And it was at a record store. And I said to the guy, put that on. He puts my record on. I'm dancing on the chair, and I walk out the door. He tracks me down. They do a video of me. And then they said, your grandmother lives in Somerville where there's an access station. There were no access stations in 79. You know, sure, in Groton in 1973, there were one or two here and there, but there wasn't the Telecommunications Act that ushered in all the public access stations. So Grandma let me do my show. She loved me, you know. We did the show, and then Jay is now running HBO, and Mark Rosenfeld was his partner. So I already had hosted a show for a year. And then, you know, I knew Marty Ballin, and I wanted to meet Bobby Hebb. Bobby Hebb wrote the great song Sunny, right? So I wrote to him in the 80s, but he said, oh, you're going to go through my lawyer, and I could understand. He opened for the Beatles. He was, you know, very well established. So in 95, I reached out to him and said, Bobby, do my TV show. He said, sure. We became best of friends. I'm his producer now. I mean, he passed away, but for the estate, I produced Bobby Hebb. Is that amazing?
Very amazing.
Yeah, two of my favorite songs of all time are Miracles and Sunny, and I got to be friends with the guys.
See, I don't know Miracles, but I know Sunny. That's running through my head right now.
Only you believe like I believe.
Okay. Got it. Because I hear Sunny.
One of my all-time favorite songs.
Thank you for
producing live versions of all their hits. I produced Sunny probably more times than Jerry Ross, and he was their producer. And Jerry was a dear friend of mine, and he's gone. So I got to meet my heroes. I mean, Nick Vinay, the Beach Boys, right? I talk to Nick on the phone all the time, and then I get an email, Nick is gone. And I'm like, the first email I ever got where a friend of mine was gone, and his girlfriend wrote me and said, Nick is gone. I would talk to, you know, Jimmy Miller, all these great producers. And with Jimmy, you know, he taught me how to fade records his way. You know, the master taught me, never fade out as it concludes. Always do it halfway before the conclusion. Let it swirl in their head, Joe. And he put his hand on the thing and mine, and, you know, this is the fun stuff, Dan.
Yeah, it makes it seem like that record goes on and on and on in your head. It's like when they fade out in a movie. It's the same thing. It goes on forever, even past that movie.
But did you know Jimmy Miller is the drummer on You Can't Always Get What You Want and Shine a Light? He did like 5 Stone songs. So we're in my basement. I'm playing keyboards and singing, and he's on drums. I got to play with the guy who made the record.
Yes.
In my basement.
I mean, it's okay. Okay. Now you're talking about in the 60s and 70s when there was only a few bands. And I just recently talked to another artist that was, there's only a few bands that were, okay. Oh, he brought up the Monkees, and there was only a few bands that were playing on all the records back in the 60s and the 70s. The Hired Guns.
Oh, you mean the Wrecking Crew?
The Wrecking Crew.
So that the Byrds would be out touring and the Wrecking Crew make their records with Roger McGuinn.
Correct.
And then Motown had the, what did they call them?
There was Green Onions.
They had the, I know the name. There's that movie, Standing in the Shadows of Motown. So that was their Wrecking Crew. Motown they had a name for them. So yeah, there were people making the records. And then Milli Vanilli got their Grammy taken away because they weren't singing on it.
Yeah, but okay, yes, I just heard a little podcast about Milli Vanilli. It wasn't their fault completely. They got railroaded. They were a couple of club dancers. Now, if you look on the record, the singers that were actually singing on the song are credited as backup singers on the record.
Well, it's a crazy industry because that's been going on forever.
It is. That manager did the same thing in Germany, where he was from, with another band. And he while he was in Germany, he heard this little group singing that the first Milli Vanilli song, and he said, "Hey, I could steal that." I mean, he straight up stole that song and put it out for this other. Oh, this industry can hurt people, and really, I guess Rob and Fab, one of them, is it Rob? No, it was Fab that died, or Rob. One of them killed themselves.
Very depressed over it, right?
Yes.
Remember Space Jam with Michael Jordan?
Yes.
New Kids on the Block recorded.
Well, I'm sorry.
In 1988, I was the manager, and I was managing Miller at the same time. So Michael Johnson takes me in his studio, and he goes, "Listen to this, Joe." He had a hit record with the Johnson crew called Pac Jam. You put an S and an E on Pac, and it's space. They stole the friggin' record.
Yeah.
They made Space Jam right over Pac Jam, and Michael litigated. And he played me the record the lawyers made. It was amazing. You could hear how they just stole the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, supposedly there's a Red Solo Cup song that some hip-hop artist in Texas made, and then here there's a Red Solo Cup song that makes it big, and that little hip-hop artist makes no money on it. Was it parallel thinking? I don't know. Maybe somebody heard it when they were down in Texas and said, "Hey, I think we can make a record out of this," and have somebody more established sing it and make millions. And that guy, leave him by the wayside. You can get chewed up by this business, and I'm glad that you've made, hopefully some kind of a living off of this and navigated through. Will anybody survive without a record label? Do they have to be independent? Is there an advantage to record label versus independence? What are the advantage of each? Do you know?
Well, we're thinking of putting a new label together with Rob Fraboni, where we take important tapes we have and do what Franklin Mint does. You know the Franklin Mint with the Hummels and the coins?
Oh, yes, of course.
We want to do a high-end thing where we sell 5,000 units only, make it very collectible, but at a high rate. And we have major artists lined up. I mean, one of them is Blondie Chaplin, the singer of the Beach Boys, Sail on Sailor.
Okay.
A big song that Wilson Pickett did. I forget. Mustang Sally.
Yes.
But then we have other tapes, and I can't say the names yet. And we intend to do these high-end recordings. And like the Franklin Mint.
Yeah, it's probably better that you keep it aside. I mean, because the Franklin Mint had their coins that would be limited edition. Disney had the same idea. Whenever they put their different cartoons out, they would rip. Okay, for the kids that are way under 30, back in the 80s, back in the 70s, the Disney Corporation would take their videotapes when videotapes were cool. And they would sell you, they would say, "Hey, we're opening the vault, and for about a month, you can buy Cinderella." And people were flocking to the stores, buying up all the Cinderellas, and Disney made a mint. Hopefully, that same kind of an idea where you open the vault, make a certain amount of pressings, maybe make an authenticity, certificate with each one.
Exactly. But the problem is they always get digitally copied. So we're going to add, just like the Franklin Mint, we're going to mint coins of Bobby Hebb. And you get a coin as well as the booklet. And so you can't digitally download the coin.
Yeah. I
make it very collectible. You get a Bobby Hebb coin, a Marty Ballin coin,
Well, hopefully you can do some of this, non-fungible token, whatever they are. I haven't been able to wrap my head around digital coins and digital media that you can own, and every time somebody downloads it, old Joe Viglione gets a little piece out of it. I wish that for you.
Yeah, again, we got to address all those things, but right now we're just building the new corporation. So it is a tough industry, like you said, but there's a lot of avenues for opportunity.
Yes,
a lot of it.
And as long as you're willing to hustle, which you are, you'll go far. People aren't selling records.
See, I don't call it hustling. All I call it is my work. I just get up in the morning and I do this. This is what I do. So it's like, it's just what I love doing.
Yes. I mean, okay. Yeah. Hey, did you did you ever work on the radio in Boston?
Yeah, I was a producer of a big show on 93.7 where we started the demo that got the deal. I scripted it, but I also, at the same time I'm producing Harvey Warfield on 93.7, I was the program director at WNSH, an AM station. So I had my own show going while I was producing Harvey's. I had two commercial radio stations at once, one AM, one FM.
Well, for my loyal listener, that the producer typically runs the board, makes sure the levels and the microphones are all set up, and then any sound bites that they need, I guess you get that.
We the DJ and I would plan the show.
Yes.
And we went to number one on Sunday nights. And radio, they don't care about number one on Sunday nights. But we were the top show in the city.
Yeah.
In the Boston area on Sunday nights. So I think it's valuable. But, they don't care about Saturdays and Sundays. They want the Monday through Friday drive time to make money.
Well, I mean, as long as that show is selling their own time slot, did he have to go out? There was little mom and pop stations that I had to leave my.
Well, we didn't have to do that, but They offered us that opportunity. We were already in there, and he was getting a salary.
Okay.
But they also said you can have some airtime if you want to sell it.
Yes.
So they gave us that opportunity, but we didn't have to.
Okay.
That was just like a bonus. If you want to make some more money, here, take some airtime.
Yeah, I know that I would leave. I would leave the station about 10 o'clock and then go to lunch with some people from the community that were thinking about buying airtime. We'd sell our own show. That's on the mom and pop stations. But if you're working at one of the bigger ones that have 200, 300 stations, most of the time they have a big sales staff. But
we were Kurt Gowdy's station, CGY. Kurt Gowdy, the guy from Naked Gun, the sports announcer.
Yes.
So that was Kurt had 4 to 8 radio stations. He did very well for himself. And his son, he had 3 kids. It was Cheryl, Trevor, and then his son, Kurt Jr. Kurt Jr. was a major announcer across the country. So we were working for that station, and it was fun.
It is so much fun. Now tell me about the AM station. AM radio, it felt like it kind of died out, but I worked at an AM station in the mid to late 90s, and it was the oldest station in Coral Gables, AM 1080, the voice, WVCG, the voice of Coral Gables. And that was a radio station where people would buy time, and some of it was Christian radio, and some of it was selling whatever kind of products, but people would buy time on that station. I thought that AM got relegated to that pretty much after FM got bigger.
Well, it did, but the owner of AM 16, it was 15. I ran 1570, and then I ran 1670 like 10 years later. 1570, the fellow went out and bought up all the signals on 1570. Way too much work for the money he was making. And I was running the one up in North Shore. And that was fun, but basically it was the traffic cop. I mean, funny story because everyone's territorial, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm the program director. And I decided I wasn't going to go to the station for a meeting because it was 45 minutes away, right? Mm-hmm. I said, I'm the PD. I better show up. So I show up and there's a line of people there. And the traffic cop is in the middle of the room saying, who does this guy think he is, meaning me? The station owners behind me were all laughing. And I walk into the room and his jaw drops. And I said, you can direct traffic and you can be on radio. And I'm very respectful of everyone here. But I'm the guy bringing you the trade papers. I'm the guy teaching you radio. And if you want to do it instead, I'll just walk right now. And he felt like 3 cents at that point. But I'm trying to help people, and you're slaving away, and then, someone's got a huge ego, and he's the traffic cop. Who does this guy think he is? I'm just the guy helping you.
Yeah, that was the nice thing about radio is you started to develop a community, a relationship with the community. I had people that were bringing me lunch and dinner sometimes, and, breakfast, and I was like, you don't have to do this. I'd rather you didn't, but it was so nice of them. It
was 1992. Now, 30 years later, one of the women is a major DJ up here, and we correspond, and she loves those days with me because that's where she cut her teeth. But she's really good, and we just wrote last week to each other, and I send her some of the new music. So it's interesting that, and she's a great person, but you see that is really good people, and they are the ones who are successful.
Now, you were saying that Kurt Dowdy bought all the 1570s in the area.
No, not Kurt. Kurt had 93.7 FM. He had like 8 stations.
Okay.
He had 4 to 8.
But you had another person that was buying all the 1570s in the area.
The AM guy.
Were you simulcasting?
He worked way too hard, because think of all the mileage he had to do to get 5 1570 radio stations. He had to go down the South Shore, Western Mass, New Hampshire. It was too much. He worked. His name began with a K. Nice guy. But I think, he sold it all off to a Christian station or whatever.
Uh-huh.
That's what happens to them.
Yeah, I think we got bought up by Radio One, which is like the black-owned corporation. They got about at least 200 stations across the country. They're doing very well. They changed the name of the station to TPS, the People Station, and they started playing a different kind of music and doing a different kind of programming. It's neat how when radio changes over like that. The only time I've ever been let go or I guess fired by a radio station's when they change formats. I'm on a rock and roll station, and they go, "Hey, we're going country." I could put a cowboy hat on. Keep me on. Nope, we're firing everybody and having a whole new staff. All right, moving on.
And then they play Funky Cold Medina for 2 days over and over to change the format, right?
You better believe it, man. I think ours was Don't Worry, Be Happy. And that was in 86 or 87 at that particular station, switched over, and it was Don't Worry, Be Happy for about 24 hours or I don't know, whatever. and by the next day, it was all country. Yippee-ki-yay.
It's a strange industry, but now we have our stations online. I mean, I'm on Activate Media every week with my interviews.
Yes.
So activatemedia.org. I just interviewed the guy from Everclear, Art. You know that band?
I know that band. Man, Watch the World Guy.
I got Foghat and Tom Rush coming up. This will be like my 4th interview with Tom Rush. So I go back and listen to the old ones so I'm not redundant and try to keep my artists happy.
All right. Well, I know we've been talking for a while. Lay it down for the people. What is it that you do? Give me the tent poles of what Joe Viglione does, and let people know, how they can get a hold of you and learn more, I guess. I found your...
I'm a performer. The first thing I jumped in performing, and that's what I do, and I'm a record producer. Those are the 2 things I do. But the promotion you have to do, no matter who you are.
Yes. You
got to promote the stuff. You don't want it sitting on a shelf and getting dust. And, if you just go to joeviglione.com, Viglione.com, or the Demo That Got the Deal radio show, DEMODEAL at yahoo.com. That's easy. We've been doing the Demo That Got the Deal since 91.
Well, I mean, I have the Joe Viglione,
the booklet.
joeviglione.com. It says film director, record producer, TV host, writer, Renaissance man. Yes, you're all those things for sure. and I'll have that link in the show notes, and definitely the link to your Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Discogs, SoundCloud, Rate Your Music, IMDb. You got an IMDb. Have you been in a movie? Have you been involved with film directing?
Well, yeah, that's, you could take the 1,000 guests I've had on the TV and the radio shows. You can make a ton of movies, but the only movie that came out was the Marty Ballin one. I'm working on a number of them right now. I do a lot of documentaries. Remember, Bill Hanley did Woodstock. He built the speakers for Woodstock, and he did the Bobby Hebb Beatles tour. I'm in Everett now, but I lived in Medford, and the Medford Dunkin' Donuts was where he built the Woodstock speakers in Medford, right down the street from me, and they had big trucks taking them to Woodstock. So he spoke at the library last December, and no one was videotaping him. This guy's a legend. He created the sound, because when he was out there, when the Beatles were playing, They were using PA speakers. The Beatles were playing in concert halls with PA speakers. And Hanley went up to them and said, because the Remains were on the bill, and he was friends with the Remains, as I am. They were like the pioneering Boston band that toured with the Beatles. And they were on Capitol Records. And he went to the concert in Chicago or somewhere. And when the Beatles and Epstein saw that he had this huge speaker system, that's when they started using Bill Hanley's speakers. Is that amazing?
Yeah, it's nice to know somebody with a good set of speakers, a good PA system.
Well, but he created this for Woodstock and for the Beatles tour was 66. Woodstock was 69.
Yes.
He created these things.
Fantastic.
And so he's at the library giving a lecture, and I went and videotaped it, so I made a documentary. So I got a bunch of these documentaries, Laurie Anderson, right, speaking for 90 minutes, where I'm not in it. I'm just the producer director.
Well, that's what you need to be.
But Dan, it's in my blood. I have to tape these things. It breaks my heart that no one's in there to videotape Bill Hanley. What are you thinking?
Well, we need people like you to document these things. A lot of times, an artist, a cover band, the way that they get their next gig is the fact that somebody took a picture or took some video at the last gig and everybody was having a good time. So somebody will see that and say, hey, let's hire them for the next gig. Or you've saved them for prosperity.
The agent that got me Everclear and Tom Rush, he gets me so many artists. He had the tribute to Pink Floyd.
Yes.
And I never interview tribute artists, right? This guy was fascinating. It was amazing. So it was a good interview. We got raves on it, and I would never have done it, but I felt obligated. And it turned out being a great interview.
Everybody's got a story. You have a story, and it's not over, man. It's still being written. But you had
I'm hearing your story as we're talking about mine, and I love it because you got a story to tell.
Yeah,
and all of us. I mean, every human being. Dan, I started at 15 years old with a magazine, right? And my idea at 15 was to walk up to anyone on the street and interview them. But instead, I get to meet Alfred Hitchcock. I didn't interview him, but I got to meet him. And God's given me all these great, Jodie Foster. Who gets to talk to Jodie Foster?
Nobody.
Put her in YouTube. Put her in YouTube and put my name, and she comes up in my interview with her.
Yes, I've seen it.
And
she doesn't give a lot of interviews, man. That was a good get, as we say in the biz.
Did you see her jump out of the chair with my first question?
Yes, she's wonderful, man.
She loved it because I asked her if Madeline White was the opposite of Meredith Black. And she jumped up and said, yes, two of her characters. But she knew I knew her work.
It's nice, man.
Then I got her director, Robert Zemeckis, Back to the Future.
Yes, but before that, Robert Zemeckis with Used Cars. Even before that, I liked the swings that he took, man.
So I got to interview Zemeckis.
Yes. And
they wanted me to do one-on-one with Zemeckis in the morning, but my life partner had to go in for surgery, and I couldn't let him down, okay? So I took Jeff to surgery, and I went and did a round table in the afternoon, but I'm all prepared, and there's all these critics that know what they're doing, and they were stumbling and fumbling, so I had all my questions ready. I just said, well, Mr. Zemeckis here. And a month later, the publicity company pulled me aside and they said, Paramount said you were the best interview of the day for Zemeckis. It just made me feel good because I was prepared. But I also said to him, you have 3 or 4 Jimmy Miller songs in your movie, and Jimmy's gone now, but I want, he had Stones songs and he had a Joe Cocker song. I said, I want you to know, I know Miller because I spent so many years with him. He would have loved your placement of his music in the film Flight. And I think Robert felt good about that because who knew better than me?
Fantastic,
and it's just great to meet these people, interview them, and some of them become my friends. But there's over 1,000 of them.
Yes, with the things. I love talking to you who's talked to other people. I've done so many of these, and I've talked to so many people on the radio, on the red carpet. You're making me think about all these people that have been in front of me. I've gotten and I've been enlightened, been taught by, gotten information from, help to make my life better. And you are now one of those people, Joe Viglione. You're making my life better, learning more about you and learning how you tick, man. You help. Well, you're helping other people become better as well.
Here's a fun one. Joe Perry, his first wife was doing PR with me, Alyssa Perry, right? Mm-hmm. But his second wife was my graphic artist. So she set up an interview with me, and I wrote the questions and sent them to her, and she called me up and she goes, I'm not kidding you. Joe's blown away by your questions. Now, I had Thanksgiving dinner with the Perrys one year, right? So we know each other, but she goes, seriously? And then he does the interview with me. I'll send it to you. And he goes, I really love your questions, but we have to do part 2 because I have to promote my album. I said, I get it. But I go from the point, Dan, where we ask them questions that they never heard before.
Yeah.
Because they've done thousands of interviews.
Well, that's why I like these.
He doesn't want to talk about Dream On.
Yeah, that's why I like these that are unscripted. There's only been a few. There was a charity that was being promoted. They sent me some questions ahead of time. Hey, some talking points. Make sure you talk about these things. That's fine. I'm happy with that. Happy to help people. But the conversations that I have where you're just trying to, you're making a friend. You're having a coffee and you're making a friend. And Joe Viglione, you've touched greatness, and for me, you've been great, man. You are a great person.
Oh, thank you. I was going to send you 30 questions. I didn't have the time. I'm glad we did it this way.
I am too.
I usually send stuff in case people don't know.
No, I had little idea. If you go to joeviglione.com, there is link after link after link after link above the fold, and that's an old newspaper term for all you youngins out there. When you fold the newspaper, that top part, that's the most important stuff. So all those links up there, click on them. The biographies, the articles, the different interviews that you've done. Man, I want people to know more about you. Now, what are you open to? I did the
first Bon Jovi show. I did the very first Bon Jovi show in Boston.
What? Tell me about it.
Well, the Paradise Theater, I've played it 49 times. That's a world's record. It's the best concert club. And we did such a good job, they had me as the, what is it called? When you're not an employee, but you're the independent contractor.
Okay.
So I worked for them for 18 years. And so the Bon Jovi show, are you ready? Bon Jovi had the hit Runaway. He sold 15 tickets.
Boo.
For an 850-seat hall. So Polydor, the great Don Masters at Polygram, because the record companies had their own offices in cities like New York and Boston, right? They'd have their own. Well, New York, you had the major office, but they'd be PR people. And so Don Masters bought 75 tickets for Polygram. So now you're up to 90. So the Don Law Company, which is now Live Nation, called me up and said, can you rescue this show? It's very important. I knew why it was important because it was Motley Crue and the Scorpions manager, Doc McGee, was behind Bon Jovi. So I knew why they needed to pack the room. I said, yeah, I got 3 bands that'll pack the place. I put Dorian Gray from Waltham, Smuggler from the North Shore, and Jet Screamer from Revere, 3 different areas, right? We packed the place.
That's how you do it. When a band comes in.
When I saw Bon Jovi's road manager, I said, these people are mine. And he got real mad at me, right? He didn't want to talk to me because he thought Bon Jovi, but Bon Jovi only had 1 hit at the time.
Yeah, well, but when a band comes into a new city that they're not very known in, the best way to get the butts in the buckets is to get a local band that's loved and put them in the front.
We had 3 of them. We had 3 with big followings, okay?
Nice.
And they, to this day, they love that they opened for Bon Jovi, but he was unknown. He had 1 hit. So now I'm going to the Scorpions show with a friend, and I wanted to interview them, right? Because I always wrote for papers. I see the road manager. I said, oh, hey, it's me, Joe. Can I have a backstage pass? He goes, sure. He gives me the backstage passes. Then he's pissed at himself, remembering that he was mad at me at the Bon Jovi show for packing the room, and he didn't believe we packed it. But we did.
Yeah.
It was legit. We didn't pay for the room. We had the band's followings come in And Bon Jovi had a great full house, but he only did 15 tickets before showtime.
Yeah, he can't stay mad at you for that. You filled that room.
Well, Bon Jovi wasn't mad at me.
Yeah, you filled that room.
But then I had dinner with Tony Bon Jovi. Do you know who that is?
No, I do not.
Tony Bon Jovi's his uncle that made him famous and ran the power station. So now, I'm not a huge AC/DC fan. I like them. So I'm sitting in the power station, and AC/DC is sitting across from me. I don't even know who they are. And then oh, yeah, that's AC/DC. It's like, oh, yeah, looks it, right? But Bon Jovi had all the major acts coming through. His real name is Bon, I think, Giovi. Tony Bon Jovi. And then the star Bon Jovi changed it to Jovi.
Okay.
But I had dinner with Tony, and we had rented his one of my bands that I was promoting rented the power station. And they were erasing the tape stand. It drives me crazy. The stuff was amazing. They were practicing to go elsewhere and record. And I'm like, you can't erase these. These are brilliant. And to save money, they just practiced on, and the practices were brilliant.
Crazy. It's amazing the things that you've done, man. And I'm going to re-listen to this again and again. I'm so impressed by you. And what are you up to now? What are you up to these days? That hold on,
Go ahead.
You
got a big fan club out there.
I do.
Bands Radio What? You've been so good to them. They call you up and leave messages, right?
Yes. And I put them on before their songs. The message that they send me. And they introduced their own songs.
Greg Walsh loved it. See, Greg Walsh opened for the Psychedelic Furs, okay? But he's on your show, and his Facebook fans, and he loved leaving the message for you. But he's been around for a long time. He's a dear old friend, but he loved that you play him.
Hey, I'll play good music. I play what I want. It's my station. I've been the music director.
I've got more airplay for Greg Walsh, man. Even though I got all great acts. This summer, it went through the roof. Everyone loved that Blank Tape song, Blank Tape. It just went through the roof, the airplay.
Fantastic.
He's really good.
Yes. Now, what's on the horizon for you over the next couple of years or whatever, next year, next few months?
Oh, yeah, we're in the middle of contract negotiations. I got tapes I'll tell you about offline, but I don't want them on the air.
Oh, of course not.
We got tapes we're playing with, man, that'll blow you away. And we're putting this corporation together. So I'm supposed to negotiate tonight, but I bet you my partner is not going to want to talk on the phone. But he set the meeting up for after the interview with you.
Okay.
We're supposed to go over contracts, and it's tedious work. We have the lawyer draw it up, then we got to fill in the blanks. And he's like, I don't want to do this, and I'm going to make it easy. Incrementally, we're just going to take the first 2 paragraphs. That's it. Real simple. We got to do it. Because he's off to Switzerland tomorrow. We got to get it done now, This is my life.
Yeah, you definitely have to get that done tonight. And I'm going to let you out of here the next couple of minutes. Man, it's a pleasure talking to you. Are you looking to you're putting this band back together? I mean, they're putting this company together. When are we going to be able to see those documentaries? You have so much footage that needs to get put together as well.
The documentary's up on YouTube right now. The Bill Hanley thing should be up on YouTube.
Okay, that's the one on the Joe Viglione YouTube video. YouTube.
I got 3 or 4 YouTube sites. So if you just put Bill Hanley, it's called Visual Radio. If you put Bill Hanley, Medford Public Library, it should come up. It could be rather boring to people because I didn't tape the film, but his book author, John Kane, does a long history of it. But it's important to have taped it. It's very important.
Well, it's
not as exciting as Jodie Foster or Mark Farner, because we got to have Bill and Kane come into the studio, and that'll be a lot of fun when we talk to them. This was them speaking at a public library. It can get tedious to some people, and maybe not to others. Mm. Maybe you'll love it.
Of course, I'm going to love it. Yeah, it's information. I've said it before. Everybody's got a story. Now, Community Media Medford.
Yeah, that's one of my stations.
That's the one. Okay. That's the one that's got all the different
because Medford, the city, and I lived there, and I've argued with these city councilors and the mayors, and it's like, don't you people get it? They don't want people on Access TV because they're afraid of getting ridiculed, right? And I'm like, you've got to be taping this stuff. You're lazy. And they get very mad at me, and it's like, but I'm right.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
I'll take a camera out from Reading, and I'll go to Medford and tape it from Reading because they're too lazy to tape history. Drives me crazy, Dan.
Well, people are hungry for this stuff. Nobody wants to see the same thing over and over. People are hungry for new things to see. And history, I mean, I like history, but how many documentaries on World War II and Hitler can I watch over and over and over again? No. Every time you look at the History Channel, that's all that's on there.
Well, guess what, man? Because in Medford, where they were censoring us illegally, they thought that they had the whole kit and caboodle, so you'd only see the politicians. The audience went away. It's dwindled. So they shot themselves in the foot. We would have had a huge audience for them. And the audience is gone. There might be 300, 500, maybe 1,000 people. There were 3,000 tuning in. They hurt themselves.
If we're going to have public access, we need shows like Wayne's World, okay? The movie Wayne's World was about a couple of kids sitting on a couch, talking about music, talking about life. And this is what your show could be, talking about the different artists that are just trying to make their mark in this world. Maybe they won't make millions and millions, but if it can make a living, that would be great. And we need those people.
Schneider of the B-52s, and he stayed at our apartment that night with his manager and the band. I got to Fred Schneider staying over at our place. Isn't that cool?
That's nice.
And he's on the TV show, and then he was the solo tour. And he was at the Paradise. But Mo Tucker from the Velvet Underground stayed at my house for 3 days.
Fred Nice
put out her first record.
Fred Nice went solo?
Huh?
Fred Snyder went solo?
Yeah, Schneider did a solo album.
And then,
they all do solo albums.
I like that. Oh my goodness. Well, you got to get to business, man. And I don't want this to be the last time that we talk. I know that you got so many more stories that you could tell. And I hope that this helps you just a little bit and get that much further in your career.
Thank you. And we could do a phone interview for my radio show, so you could be on my radio show and talk about your years.
Hooray! Super fantastic. All right, my man. If you want to give shout outs to people that have helped you along the way, you can talk. Give a couple of shout outs to people.
Thanks to Greg Paquette.
Hey, there he is. Nice shirt.
I don't know if you can see the shirt.
I see it.
But Greg, we're working on a musical play that he wrote 20 years ago. It's amazing. The soundtrack is done. Fraboni's mastering it. We're going to put out a limited edition first because we're going to get heavy into soundtracks, Dan. So Greg Paquette and Greg Walsh and Dean Petrella of The Complaints and Michael Gray of the American Beauties. They're all my friends. Dahlia Davis. Some of these people I go back with those guys, in the past couple of decades. With Dahlia, 40 years. Many of these people I've known for 40, 50 years. We were all in the same scene.
Nice. You barely.
Thanks, Dan.
Most people only have a friend, maybe one friend for 40, 50 years, maybe. And you've had several. So,
that's the music scene, though. See, the music binds us together.
Yeah, that says a lot about you. You have long-lasting relationships, and you have to be you have to have some kind of integrity for people to be, chaining their trains to your engine. Putting their caboose on your engine, and you have something to you, and I can tell you have integrity.
I got to tell you one more story.
Please do.
So April 8th, we had a benefit concert for the kids at the school, the music department, because Michael Weddle died. Now, Michael Weddle was a promoter who took me out of the mothballs. I hadn't played in years. And for the past decade, I've been playing again because of Michael Weddle. So he died. The club asked me to put a show together for him. And we're going to do another one next April. So, Dan, I never get sick. I got extremely ill in March. bird flu or something, right? And the show was April 8th, and I almost canceled. But I felt better on the 7th, so on the 8th I played, and what happened was we had no practices. So I had my drummer from 1983 and my guitarist from 1985, who'd never played together, and Dahlia Davis, and the singer who's been with me. We were flawless with no practice, and some of the musicians never having played together.
It's like riding a bike, man. Seasoned musicians. See,
they're all our friends, and we all know each other, but this is the first time like some of us all played together. But you all know the songs, and everyone's got a groove, and and it's on video, it's up on the web. It really was fun. But that's the friendships of being in the bands together and mixing and matching. And we had a real scene in Boston. And now it's, we're still hanging out.
See, that's inside baseball. That's behind the scenes. Little do people know that the musicians from a certain area, from a certain town, from Boston, they all know each other. So maybe on a Sunday night, they might jam together at a different club. You'll get the drummer from this club, the bass player from that club, the singer from that band, the guitarist from that band.
Like I said at the beginning of our interview, the hard rock bands weren't melting with the pop bands. Like my band was a pop punk band, but more pop. And we respect each other and go see each other, right? But we weren't hanging out. Now we're all one family. Now all the genres that were the walls between us, it's not cool to be with them too much. They're too heavy metal, right? Doesn't matter now. Everyone's jamming with each other.
Yeah, there were no genres when Hank Williams Sr. was around. Genres.
Yeah, but it was a scene. It was like the New York scene. It was very much like New York and L.A. and Boston and London. Those four cities were all very similar with the new wave movement.
Okay.
So everyone was cool. We were cool, and it's like, oh, they play hard rock, but they're great, and we'd go see them, right? But they weren't part of our world. They'd come over to our club, we'd go to theirs, but we didn't hang out. Now we all hang out.
See, I like that people don't put limits on themselves. If you want to sing a country song, go do it. Hip hop, whatever. Rock and roll, mix it together with punk, whatever. Don't matter.
Egos dropped away, you see? And now we just love music, so we all just play, and we're not like, I'm going to be the rock star. No, I'm the rock star. Well, that's all gone. Good. Now it's like, we got a show to do. Let's be pros.
Good. All right, my man. Once again, I don't want this to be the last time that we talk. I want you to come back as often as you want, and I want you to give the last words for the people. This could be words to live by, something you heard a long time ago, or just whatever pops into your head at this moment in time. Joe Viglione, give the last words for the
Janis
people.
Joplin's anniversary is October 4th next week, and Kathy McDonald October 3rd. She replaced Janis. So we'll just say the three words: keep on rocking. For Janis and Kathy.
Well, there you have it, party people. Joe Viglione. Oh, my goodness. What a cool dude. That guy's been doing it for over 50 years. 50 years. Not only brushing with greatness, but becoming greatness, playing with the greats. It makes you great. When you play with people that have gotten to a certain level, it makes you that much better. When you promote other people, the only time you should be looking down on someone is to reach down and pick them up and get them to the next level. Oh, Joe, you've been doing that, and you've been making your own music. You've been writing about these new kids that are coming up, even some old kids that want to make it back into the biz. You've been doing it, man, and I appreciate you. We're kindred spirits. Okay, that's all I want is to help out my fellow man or woman. It's what we do. Yeah. That's how, yes, I get a little bit of content. Hopefully somebody gives me a couple of pennies for this thing. But if not, you've gotten some promotion, from me, from you. You get promotion and you get to build up your fellow man. We need to be helping each other out. And that's our way of doing it. Joe, me and you and I, we're helping people in the way that we know how. You have your platform on YouTube, and so do I. I love you have all this content. Oh my goodness. And I'm not too keen on the word content, but you do have a lot of it. You have a lot of videos of you talking to people making sure that, oh my goodness, this visual video. They got, there's hours and hours and hours of things for people to see, to learn about. I'm glad to know you. I'm glad to know you. Thank you so much, Joe Viglione, for being on the What Makes You Famous podcast. That's it for this edition of What Makes You Famous. I look forward to talking to you again, Joe. I know you've had so much more, so many more stories in that head of yours, but you took the time to put video, to take video and audio and record those things that you've been through. Oh, smart, real smart, real smart. All right, that's it for this edition of What Makes You Famous. Now, if you, my loyal listener, I'm turning my attention to you. If you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call, 501-470-6386, or email keysdan@aol.com. That's it for me. It's KeysDAN, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.